Hey everyone, I'm Mike Vichik, co-founder and CEO of Pursuit.
And I'm Brandon Max, co-founder and CTO. Welcome to our Winter 2026 release.
If you sell into state and local government, you already know the problem. Opportunities don't just announce themselves. They're buried in a board meeting from 11 p.m. on a Tuesday. They're in a FOIA response sitting on a county clerk's office. They're also in the fact that the IT director who championed your product just moved to a different agency, but no one on your team knows that yet. Pursuit exists to surface all of those signals so that your life selling into SLED is easier. And this winter, we took a massive step forward. We redesigned our entire platform, making it simpler for both RevOps and sellers alike to get what they need as quickly as possible. We also went deeper on data accuracy and breadth. And then we doubled down on integrations so that data from Pursuit can live inside of every part of your tech stack. Plus, today we're introducing a brand new business model that we've never talked about publicly. Here's how this release breaks down. First is data infrastructure. This is the engine for RevOps. It has account research, AI workbooks, AI-powered prompts, CRM integrations, Zapier integrations, and webhooks that can send your data anywhere you want it. It makes sure that the best data lives in every system your team touches. Marketing, sales, customer success, all of it. Second is Workspace. These are tools that make your reps more dangerous. Signal alerts that show up in your email every morning, a Chrome extension that's the only one of its kind in GovTech, and a Slack-based research assistant. Pursuit now meets your AEs, BDRs, and CSMs wherever they're already working. And then third is Channel Partner, and this is brand new. Pursuit signals have gotten so powerful that we're putting our money where our mouth is. We're generating demand on behalf of partners as a reseller, and then Pursuit gets paid if and when deals close. Think of it as supercharging your existing RevOps and demand gen functions so that your team never has a pipeline problem ever again. Let's start with data infrastructure because it sets the stage for everything. Brandon, take us away.
Thanks, Mike. So in this release, we focused a lot on the RevOps persona. RevOps have a really hard job. They're responsible for contact data. They're responsible for making sure that account executives use the workflow properly.
If they hit their quotas, they're responsible for the output of the sales team.
Yeah, they're the underpinning of a lot of sales motion. So we've focused and we've chatted and actually flew to some customers and made sure that we have this as dialed as possible. And the thing that we're gonna focus on is territory planning, which historically has been a really hard problem for companies to do. It takes hours of research. Sometimes the AEs are doing that, which means they're not selling. And it's really hard to do it at scale. So we're gonna dive into the account research mode in Pursuit. And you can start from any data source. You can start from your CSV list. You can start from your CRM. You can start from Pursuit's root account list. I've selected 6 entities here that I'm gonna walk through, and something that we've built is default prompts. This is just data that you get right out of the box, and it makes it super easy to just get you going within, honestly, 10 minutes, but let's be realistic and say 2 hours of using Pursuit. So some of those default prompts are leadership changes, right? We've also included all of the census data, NCS data, and fiscal year, right? Are they in the middle of their fiscal year? Let's go ahead and add some census data here. I'm gonna go for population density and median household income. Now, as always, you can run any custom prompts you want. So if you're selling ERP software, you might wanna know about strategic initiatives that is going on in that entity. You might wanna use our FOIA data that find out any competitors that they're using. Give me the expiration date. Give me the amount they paid, right?
Do they have an out clause? Like imagine anything that you would tell a rep, like this is a good account if, and then you can just have Pursuit go do that research.
Yep. So as you can see here, competitor presence for Cook County. They have Tyler Tech. Their contract starts here, and the value is $29 million. The operating budget, right? Are they growing? What's the percent of change year over year? That might be really helpful to understand if they're buying new software. One thing that we've heard is co-op contracts used. If we're on Omnia, that makes the sale a lot easier. Fiscal stress indicators, and one really cool thing that we've introduced in this release is nearby customers. So I'm gonna go ahead and I want to go into my CRM. I want to choose the fields that we identify as a customer, whether that's an account type or an opportunity or a custom object. We support it all. And I'm going to say, hey, give me the search radius of 50 miles and give me the next 3 nearest customers. And this is really helpful not only to put in a prospecting email, but also for account scoring. We know that if a neighbor is using software, it makes it a lot easier of a sale.
Totally.
So let's dive into the account scoring thing, which is really cool and allows you to do territory planning and prioritization at scale. So Mike, I'm going to give it to you in a second to talk about what we've seen with customers, but right now I want to just run this. And let's assume that we're selling ERP software, so we want to know the strategic initiatives, we want to know if there's any competitors, and the operating budget, co-op contracts used, nearby customers, and you can now choose these variables and how important they are, right? Nearby customers might be, a 3, it might be really high. Co-op contracts used isn't going to stop us from making the deal, but it's helpful. Competitor presence is definitely a really important thing. Census data, right? We found that median household income, just from talking to our reps and selling for years, we know that that's a really important one. So one really important key here is to give the context to Pursuit so it understands how to actually evaluate all of those. So I'm going to go ahead and write out we sell ERP software. If they use Omnia as a cooperative contract, that's super important to us. Nearby customers makes it an easier sale. If they have high fiscal stress indicators, if their pension is off balance, that makes it a lot harder to sell into. And if their budget is less than 200 million, that's not as important to us. Anything else you want to add, Mike?
Did you say the part you said about the co-ops, right?
Yep.
No,
cool.
I think that's good.
Cool, so I'm going to go ahead and run that, and while that's running, can you tell us about...
Yeah, for sure. So what we've seen here, there's 2 things I would add. Number one is like a lot of private equity-backed companies that we work with have some kind of board mandated process where they have to stack rank the customers and the prospects. And the whole theory is you want to make sure that your AEs are spending time with accounts that are ready to buy, because that's how you're efficient from a go-to-market perspective. That's how you hit your rule of 40, which is now rule of 60. So what we've seen is if your average close rate is, let's just say 20%, when you have a highly ranked account, it'll close at 2x the rate. So if your close rate's 20, the highly ranked accounts will close at 40% of the time, which is night and day difference. But also if it's a D account, AKA a lower rated account, it will close at 10% of the average. So 40% versus 2% close rates, that's the difference if you're an AE between hitting your number or not, and if you're a CRO, it's the difference between your whole org making their number or not. And like Brandon said, back in the day before Pursuit, you'd have to kind of guess at a lot of this stuff because it was, some of it's hidden behind FOIAs and you have to do a lot of manual research. So at best, people are kind of like finger in the air picking 10 accounts and trying to score those. But here we're able to do it for an entire, like literally tens of thousands of accounts. The second thing I would say, which you'll get to how we rerun this in a second, but as the strategy shifts for a company, you can also change what we're scoring in here. So let's say, for instance, you acquire a new product and there's not a ton of data on that product. You can still build an account score for it based off of the factors that you see here. So you buy a new procurement tool, you can ask Pursuit to look up information about their procurement initiatives, for instance.
Yeah, thank you. So this is ran, and you can see that Cook County got a 65. As someone who's been selling for years, you might understand, I would expect that to be more of an 80. Let's dive in why. We give you all of the reasoning and context based on every column that you gave us. So the account is a strong match primarily due to its use of Omnia and its primary cooperative contract, its significantly large operating budget, both of which are key positive indicators, which is exactly what we told it. So might need some tinkering, but let's go ahead and actually introduce this into our AE's workflow. We want this to live everywhere our AEs do. So one really cool thing you can do is you can actually have this run quarterly. As Mike said, priorities might change, products might shift, and
new people might get hired, and you want to make sure if there's a new finance director that gets brought in, that person's going to want to take a look at the tech stack.
Leadership changes, right? So you can go ahead and you can say, hey, rerun this column quarterly and automatically add as many actions as you want. We support emailing. We support exporting to Salesforce, HubSpot. And something that we've also introduced this release is Webhook and Zapier. So you can automatically pass this to, maybe you have some really cool custom outreach sequence that you want to do via Zapier, and you can automatically use the nearby customers column and the account score to kind of dial in that workflow. So I'm going to go ahead and add email and webhook, and you can save those changes. The one other thing is, so we now have that dialed into all of our workflows and CRM, but one thing we might want is when AEs are using the Chrome extension, we want that to be the first thing they see. So you can go ahead here and click Pin to Team, and that will allow your reps, anytime they're on a Salesforce opportunity, anytime they're on a government website, they open up the Pursuit Chrome extension, all of the data that you expect them to have is sitting there for them.
And time out there. I think that, and I'll cover the Chrome extension in a second. It's a super important feature, but the nice thing about this is that from a RevOps point of view, you get to decide what your reps see, what research is right in front of them, so that they don't have to go do that, right? Because we all know reps are going from call to call to call, and they might not have time to do the prep that they need, so they can just quickly, boop, open the Chrome extension and have right there all the information that you think they need. It really does bring a lot of leverage to a sales team.
So, in this winter release, we've increased data coverage exponentially in two different ways. One is Canadian entities, which we'll get to in a second, and two is FOIA coverage. FOIA data is not new to Pursuit. We've had purchase orders for the last 5 years, but unfortunately, purchase orders really only give you vendor name, a light description, the amount they paid, and the payment date. What's really important is contract data for your competitors. That contracts that we can FOIA come with expiration, the SKUs. Did they use a co-op contract? Is there any out language? This is all super important to pipe into that previous workflows that we talked about, account scoring, getting it into your CRM. If you're a current or future customer, please let's talk. We can find a way to get all of your competitors' contracts into Pursuit. The second thing I want to talk about is Canadian data, our neighbors to the north. Or, fun fact, since we're in Detroit, it's the only place where Canada is actually south. So we've ingested the same way that we've done for all of our domestic US entities, contact data, FOIA coverage, agenda, city council, strategic plans for around 3,000 Canadian entities, and that works in the same way. You can automatically work those into any workflow you need. And the last thing in data infrastructure I want to talk about is what we're calling contact graph. That's a GovTech first, and there's a reason it's a GovTech first. It's really hard to identify an individual that has moved across entities and know for certain that it's the same person. The way other contact providers outside of the public sector do this is LinkedIn. A majority of contacts in the government we found do not have a LinkedIn. So we've invented a proprietary algorithm to use a bunch of different variables and sources to actually identify that person as a root contact. And what will happen now in Pursuit is you can see in the contact graph under each contact that you'll be able to identify that a person has moved from an entity and where they exist today. So that automatically gets piped into your CRM. Now there's a second thing that Contact Graph actually introduces, which is really cool, and this is what we're calling an influential factor. If somebody is at the state agency level and you see their name across a bunch of different counties as on a document or on a FOIA piece of data, you can actually see that that person is probably managing and signing a lot of different contracts at the state agency level. This is super helpful for your AEs and the sales motion to understand how influential that person is. With Pursuit, you now get those two things directly piped into your CRM and built into all of the workflows that you already have built. Mike, why don't you take us away and talk about how AEs use this data?
Happy to do it. So all the work that Brandon just did in RevOps makes my life 1,000 times easier. He's already told me which accounts I should go after. He's made sure that my contact data is pristine. I know that so-and-so moved from an account that used to work for one of our existing customers into one of my prospects. That's all gold. And it actually makes it way more likely that I hit my quota. So nice job. Appreciate it.
Let's go.
So what I want to talk through next is a few things that, as a rep, make my life easier. The first one is signal emails. And this is something that has existed inside of Pursuit for a minute, just that they've gotten a little bit better. So as an example, what I want to walk through here is, for instance, for the town of Wayland, if I sell an infrastructure asset risk management product, I can know that, for instance, in their meeting from just 10 days ago or so, there was a capital improvement committee that was formed, and they're actively prioritizing different capital projects, including things related to public safety, risk reduction, and infrastructure conditions. For me, as a person who sells software that manages that, that's a gold opportunity that I need to reach out to. The other cool thing is, with Brandon's account scoring thing, that can now flow into my emails in the morning. So I can get this town of Wayland, not only is it an opportunity, but it's an A account as well. So that tells me I can't let that lead drop. So from here, a couple other things that we've added is you can take this opportunity straight into outreach, straight into generating an outreach sequence and sending the email directly from Pursuit. So that's a couple of things that are new in the winter release. But what I want to jump to next is basically how we're using the Chrome extension for giving me as a rep superpowers. Brandon walked through before some of the columns that he has set up, and he chose to pin them for me. So that now when I'm as a rep, let's say I've got a meeting with Cook County and I'm on their website, I could also be on the opportunity in Salesforce or the account in Salesforce or the account in HubSpot, any place where this data is. I can open up Pursuit, and then the Chrome extension is going to show me all that stuff that Brandon teed up for me before. For instance, fiscal stress. This is telling me that they're not in a structural deficit, but they do have some moderate stress levels. Their pensions are not totally funded. It's a high percentage of the pension fund is a high percentage of the overall budget, which means that they might not have a ton of money to spend. That said, it looks like they are confirmed to use Omnia, Sourcewell, and NASPO. The one that they've used most often is Omnia, and their operating budget is growing. That and the year-over-year change is actually really meaningful, 21% up. That makes it way easier to sell into them. So now, when I'm getting ready to walk in there, I can see, oh yeah, here are some contracts that they have. Here's an Oracle contract. It started in 2015. The first master term ended in 2020. It was renewed again as of 23. So that tells me that maybe that they've been a partner of Oracle's for a really long time. And I know, based on my battle cards, what I should be asking them about because they're approaching an end date of that contract. So Pursuit's the only place where you can actually have this information right in front of you as a rep. And this is all the account research that the RevOps team has teed up. The other thing that I want to do is point out here that we've got contact data right in the workflow as well. So I can see all the different people. Brandon set it up so that the administration persona is automatically filtered and we're only showing contacts with greater than a 100 score. And I might say, I want to pull in some of these district commissioners, for instance. I can select them, I can export them, and they'll go automatically over into Salesforce, and they'll be kept up to date from now on. So if one of these people changes, one of them is no longer a commissioner, that will be reflected in the CRM as well. So that's all set up by RevOps, and sales teams can push this data over. So the Chrome extension just saves you a ton of time, tees up all the research that the RevOps team did on my behalf. The last thing that I want to talk about, also in the theme of making sure that Pursuit follows me everywhere where I'm at, is a Slack integration. Let's just imagine that I walked out of one meeting right into another one, and I haven't had time to do the proper research. So I'm needing a Hail Mary here from Pursuit. And I just say, I've got a meeting coming up. What are the chances what are they working on related to replacing their ERP? Are there any pain points they're experiencing? And also, please help me, give me some questions that I should ask, in my introductory call, some discovery questions I should ask. And so Pursuit, we've got our AI is going out and looking at all the documents on the web, but also looking at the document library as well. All the FOIAs that we have, the PO, the purchase order FOIAs, the contract FOIAs, any of the PDFs that our proprietary crawler has found. So a budget, a meeting, a commission or a committee file, the annual comprehensive financial report, any of the data that is available on this account, Pursuit's AI is going and looking at right now. So after a second, it'll come back and it'll tell me what's up.
The other thing I want to mention here is it actually knows who you are as a customer, right? So it has all the access to your Salesforce data. It can know what opportunity fields or what opportunities are there, and it will showcase those as well.
And this is one of the little details that I think is kind of cool. It acknowledges, I don't know if you saw that, but the eyes popped up when I put my question in and it says, we see you. And now, Pursuit responded. And it says, I found Cook County in multiple states. I'll assume you meant Cook County, Illinois. I did, thank you. And I'll search for their ERP pain points. Here's what I found. Cook County has an established, where'd that go? Has an established ERP department with dedicated leadership, including a director of ERP who gets paid $216K, and ERP operations at $170K. And then they've got ERP analysts as well. Kind of cool to know. The county is actively expanding their ERP capabilities with these planned implementations. There's some expense and P card stuff, a new budgeting system, potential pain points. The HCM functional lead went from 2 FTEs to 0, so it looks like they're downsizing that. Okay, so here's some questions. I noticed that the budget shows new expense and budget system implementations. What's driving those priorities? So again, like I might have found that. I might have gotten lucky and like, you know, looked it up in Google, or maybe I looked at this one-off account up in ChatGPT. But what those other tools don't have is the document library. They don't have access to the FOIAs, they don't have access to all the PDFs. Pursuit goes insanely deep to figure this out. So your questions here, it's the difference between a discovery call for a rep who was just hired versus one who's been there for 5 years. These are really good, well-researched discovery questions. So that just brings it straight into your workflow. Obviously, inside of Pursuit, you could have this conversation as well with chat with entities. But I just want to highlight those 3 things. And 2 of them are proactive. The Chrome extension, where I'm going out and I'm doing, you know, research on behalf of an upcoming account or an upcoming call that I have. The second one is Slackbot. I'm going to it to look up information. The other one, the email alerts, that is an AI agent that's a clone of me that while I'm sleeping is going and doing homework on my territory. It's watching every council meeting. It's watching every committee meeting. It's reading all their documents. It's looking at social posts, and it's going to serve me on a silver platter in the morning all the stuff that I need to know about. So now as a rep, I don't have to worry about any of that noise. I can spend all my time focused on the accounts. And so that's some of the stuff that's new in the winter release. Those 3 things, they make the life easier for an AE, for a BDR, and for a CSM. The CSM point is maybe someone's mentioned, maybe a competitor is mentioned in a council meeting, and you want to know anytime, you know, there's a competitor mention. Last thing I wanted to say was that Pursuit has also introduced, and this is a beta thing, our MCP. So in the future, you want to have, part of having the data everywhere is being able to put it into different AI systems, and Pursuit's MCP is purpose-built for that. So that's how we're making life better for the individual sellers or BDRs or CSMs. I want to segue and talk about a new business model that Pursuit is launching today. And it's super cool because as these signals have gotten better and better and better over the last year, Pursuit has thought, why don't we just put our money where our mouth is and actually do the demand gen on behalf of the customers for them, right? We talk to a lot of companies out there, and one of the common challenges, if you talk to a CRO or a VP of public sector, everyone needs more pipeline. And Pursuit's intelligence is the gateway to doing that, but oftentimes there's a gap in either in RevOps or in demand gen, and almost always in demand gen, to be able to take the data and generate leads out of it. So Pursuit is introducing a reseller model, where Pursuit is partnered with a select group of vendors that sell software into the government, and Pursuit will actually go out and set up meetings for the reps that show up on their calendar. We do pre-call qualifications, we hand off a lot of context, and then when the deal closes, Pursuit gets paid like a reseller. One of the things we've heard time and time again is, I wish my reseller partners did more demand gen. They're great for contract vehicles, they're great for relationship nudging, but oftentimes there's a lot to be desired from a demand gen perspective. So that's where Pursuit steps in. and it's the third pillar. So we have data infrastructure, we have workspace tools, and then we have the channel partner program. And the channel partner program, I think, is going to be an absolute game changer. So those are the three things that we wanted to introduce, and I'll pass it back to Brandon to take us home.
Thanks, Mike. So just to recap the three things in this winter release. We have data infrastructure, which allows the RevOps to empower their team. We have workspace, which allows those RevOps changes to live in the AE's world. And then we've introduced a brand new channel partner program where we'll actually book the meetings for you. Somewhere right now, a school board is discussing budget priorities. A city council is approving funding, and a procurement manager that you've sold to previously just moved to a new agency. With Pursuit, you get access to all of this. You become a better prepared vendor. And a better prepared vendor means better outcomes for government buyers, communities, students, and public servants alike.
And that's why we started Pursuit, was we want to make it easier to sell into state and local governments. And we genuinely think that would make the world a better place. So to all of our customers who've been with us since day one, we're insanely grateful. And we really hope that this release will supercharge your go-to-market efforts. Thanks for joining us in the winter release, and we'll see you back here next time.